Welcome back. I'm Andrew, your crypto guy on the internet. Great news, inflation has been solved. It's not at record highs anymore. In fact, it's zero. Joe Biden lets us know how that's possible.
The news that came out today relative to the economy. Actually, I just want to say a number. Zero. Today, we received news that our economy had 0% inflation in the month of July.
0% inflation for the month of July. Now, you don't even have to Google whether or not that's true because The Guardian, who's on his side normally, accidentally tells us what it actually was in July. Inflation is at 8.5%. Not 0, but 8.5. But maybe Joe was just trying to be zany. He was going to hook us with a crazy headline like, hey guys, we found unicorns. And everyone goes, what? And now we're leaning in and he's going to explain himself. Explain what he really meant.
0%. Here's what that means. While the price of some things went up last month, the price of other things went down by the same amount. The result, zero inflation last month. But people are still hurting. But zero inflation last month.
Zero inflation last month. Has inflation ever been zero? Okay, so Joe Biden, when was he born? 1942. All right, so now we have the inflation numbers of every year since Joe Biden was born. Has it ever been zero? Now, this is the inflation rate, and this is the federal funds rate. It was 9% when Joe was born. Has it ever been zero since? Oh, we got pretty close here. We got pretty close. Okay, still no zeros. I'm not seeing any zeros. Ooh, this was bad. Now look at the federal funds rate, how it compares to the inflation rate. If you want to keep inflation under control, your federal funds rate should be about the same or noticeably higher. If inflation is really high, you got to hit it with a high federal funds rate to tamp it down. Okay? Which is ugly. It causes a recession, but it does get the numbers in order. Compare how inflation numbers were with the federal funds rate back then when it's been fixed before to what we're doing now, and you'll see why this whole thing is upside down. Anyway, still no zeros, Joe. Haven't seen... Ooh, this was close. What was this? Oh, the 2008 financial crisis when everybody lost their house. Oh, that was bad. Let's see, 2015, pretty close because we had dirt cheap oil and gas for a second. All right. COVID, those numbers, that's not fair. We didn't know what was going on. So I'll give him a pass on that. But other than that, great numbers. Still no zeros. All right. Oh, look at this. Inflation is at 9.1% as of July 27th, but the federal funds rate is only 2.5%. Now, historically, if we want to get this inflation under control, they should be either very similar or the federal funds rate higher than inflation to get it back under control, right? Oh no, this is not even close. And then they're assuming that from 2022 to just a year later that inflation is going to fall from 9.1 to 2.7, and yet the federal funds rate will remain this low? Jerome Powell would have to jack up the funds rate to at least 9.1% just to be neutral. And yet we're not even a third of that. So how would this magically fall so much? Still, it's not zero. Not even close. So I looked for it. I went, how would Joe say zero? And I found this is what they're talking about. Okay. The beauty of statistics is you can take a whole chart of numbers that tell the truth and then take one number out of context. And then Joe Biden dawdles over and they're like, hey, President, come here. Tell him it's zero. And he's going to go, okay, how? Well, some things are more expensive and other things are cheaper. So it evens out. It's zero. Now get out there and tell him that. No one will question you. Okay. Hey, everybody. Unicorns are real and inflation's at 0% for July. Okay, bye. And then he leaves. Now, Joe Biden's been in politics for most of his life. He's also an old guy, and he should have heard the word inflation before. and CPI data. I know he sees these numbers. So if my little blonde assistant, before I go on stage, goes, "Hey, Mr. President, tell him inflation is 0, he should be like, "How the fuck is it 0? Show me that." There's no way it's 0. It's never been 0 since I've been born. Okay, month over month overall through this truncated version of the CPI, it shows 0% change. That doesn't mean inflation is 0. It's 8.5. Get that out of my face. Then he goes onto the stage and he spins it like this. Hey guys, inflation's still pretty bad, but guess what? We're seeing progress. It was 9.1, now it's 8.5. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Now there's more work to do. Vote for the people on my team in the midterms, and we'll keep progressing. We'll get these numbers under control. That's what he should say. Instead, he lies and tells us it's 0 when we know it's 8.5. Fuck. Okay, so here's how that adds up. Food was up. Electric is up. Utilities is up. Rent is up. New cars is up. But gasoline was down a lot. But that is temporary. So because gasoline fell so much from its hyperinflated numbers from before, it evened out the price increase of everything else to 0 overall. But if you're buying eggs, they're still $5. If you're buying gasoline, it's still $4.89 or $5 a gallon, depending on where you live. Now, if you're in the middle of Omaha, it might be $3.89. Good for you. You're one of 12 people that get cheap gas. But most of us are still angry about the price of energy. And that's with these artificial saviors going on right now. What are those? Well, our summer peaks have leveled off. Demand comes down a little bit. China is going through lockdowns on and off, and people's bank accounts are being frozen. There's turmoil everywhere, so their oil demand is lower than usual. We've also been dumping our strategic oil reserves by 1 million barrels a day or something like that to bring the supply artificially up, to bring the gas prices down a little bit. But that ends soon, and then we have to refill the reserves. So we're taking all that oil back out, plus more to refill the reserves. And then China's going to smooth its problems over shortly, and their demand goes back to normal. And that's assuming there aren't any hurricanes or earthquakes or tornadoes that hurt any energy company or oil-related company. And that always happens. There's always some flood somewhere or a hurricane somewhere that causes outages or shortages in certain areas. That's not factored in either. And then if you look at this nightmare that's about to hit us, to get inflation down to anywhere halfway normal, this rate's going to have to quadruple, or the oil supply has to go up dramatically to bring the price of everything down through increased supply. So what are our people doing? Congress just passed, or they're about to pass in the House, an $800 billion spending bill for electric cars and solar panels. None of that is improving the supply of oil. So, not only is it not 0, maybe we're peaking, but even that is temporary, because the real problems are still here, and they're arguably going to get worse. I mean, these midterms can't come soon enough. Like, that's the reality of it. This is the best part in the world. He says 0, and then even the Guardian right there is like, actually, it's 8.5. But just let him talk. It's, he's old. It's fine. Anyway, have a great night.